I really need to get my ceiling fixed. How's it going, everybody? I'm Rollshambo, the connoisseur and collector of all things sharp and shiny. And this behemoth is the Midgards Messer Berserker, a new design from the same people that brought you the Thunrar, the Viking, the Beowulf, all massively overbuilt knives that I love dearly. So when Mike from Midgards Messer USA reached out to me and said, hey, would you like to check out the Berserker? Absolutely, send it my way. Because if there's one thing that you know about me, it's that I love knives that have a ton of titanium, are overbuilt with good cutting geometry, and especially if they have good action. And here it is. It finally arrived all the way from Germany and then through my roof so that I could bring this content to you. There's a lot to unpack here, so let's roll the tape and check out the Midgards Messer Berserker. Alright guys, so I'm super excited for this one. Again, big shout out to Mike over at Midgards Messer USA for making this possible. Mike, it would not be possible at all without you. And for more than a few reasons, Mike was actually the person behind the design, and it's his first design. How do I think he did for a first design? Bananas. This knife is absolutely bananas, and no, I'm not talking about the shape of the knife overall, but let's talk about this for a second, shall we? We're looking at a knife that is roughly 10¼ inches long with a blade, which I measured it. I'm not going to pull out the measuring tape. The blade is about 4½ inches long, give or take, and it's so beautiful. So the handle was inspired by a flintlock pistol, and the blade shape is what you would expect on a trailing point Persian style blade, with this really high peak over here, plenty of jimping, an almost full length backspacer, huge textured pocket clip, and then we got to talk about the handle scales, because that's obviously what draws most people's attention right away. I mean, aside from the overall size, that is. It starts off with this diamond texture and then transitions into a frag pattern, kind of a spread out frag pattern, but I like it. And it kind of gives it this tuxedo look, and I'm just going to throw this out there, but I think some anodization from the straight silver down to, say, like maybe a black titanium anno would look absolutely beautiful. As it stands, it's beautiful anyways, and I really like it. If you didn't know already, I'm a huge fan of big overbuilt knives. I've already checked out more than my fair share of Midgards Messer products, and I like them. I like the overbuilt look, the overbuilt feel. I like how sturdy they are. I like that when you hold it in your hand, it feels like a knife. And that's something that is really lost on a lot of knives these days. People care about, how light is it in my pocket? This one weighs 3½ ounces. That's heavy. Let me tell you something right now. This is not a knife for everybody. This is a knife that I would classify as an enthusiast grade knife at the minimum. It's definitely a collector's piece. This one is technically a prototype because, for one, it's missing the designer's signature right there. It's missing Mike's signature right there. And it also doesn't say the Berserker on the blade. It's also not serialized. These are going to be made in limited quantities. How many? I'm not entirely sure, but typically for Midgards Messer, you're looking somewhere in the realm of 200 to 250 on average. And so, yeah, this is extremely limited. They didn't make this for everybody, because if they did, it wouldn't be in a run of 200 to 250. We'd be looking at, a bigger production run. So what does that mean? That means that this is the knife that's for the people that really want something different, that looks and feels good, that has good action, and has good materials. And look, it's CPM D2 on the blade steel. Would we have liked to have seen S45 VN? Sure. but I'm not mad at CPM-D2. And I've said this in so many other videos, I'm just going to say it shortly. CPM-D2 is the Crucible Industries powder form version of D2. It improves regular D2's attributes in almost every single way, and it performs just fine. It performs great, in fact. And you know what, if we're willing to swallow $150 for an Oz 10A Demco 8020.5, we should also be fine with CPM-D2. And that's all I'm going to say on that process. I really like the overall design. There's a lot going on here. The pocket clip is a big pocket clip, but it's a big pocket clip because it's a big knife. The end point, I wouldn't call this a deep carry, but because of how the handle is curved, you end up with only about this much sticking out of your pocket, which is more than adequate. Like, honestly, this has one of the best pocket carries of any Midgards Messer knife that I've actually held in my hand so far. Now, with that being said, the texturing on here is bananas. It's absolutely bananas, and I love it. That transition, like, we've seen titanium knives with this diamond texture. We've seen titanium knives with frag pattern texture, but I'm not used to seeing too many knives that have both. Also, when we look on the inside here, you'll notice that the scales have been skeletonized, and that definitely reduces the weight. Now, you might be wondering, how much does it reduce the weight by? Well, it weighs less than the Midgards Messer Thunrar, and everyone knows how I feel about this knife. The Thunrar is one of my favorite knives, period. I just love it. And the Thunrar is dwarfed in length by the Berserker. Now, the Berserker is lighter. With the Thunrar, you're looking at about 11.95 ounces, something in that range. With the Berserker, it's somewhere around the realm of the 10-ounce range. It's still a big knife. It's still a heavy knife. And if this is a knife that you whip out in public, then, you know, expect to get some looks. Expect for people to wonder what you're doing. But unlike the Thunrar, this one is actually very fidget friendly. So check this out. The action on here is running on bearings and no wrist flick whatsoever. Yeah, reverse flick is no problem. What about if I want to use the flipper tab? No problem. And because of that, it's actually very friendly to play with, and I really appreciate the action, because here's the thing. Yes, does it close and, you know, does it fall shut? Absolutely. There's no double clutch going on up here at the pivot, and lockup is very solid. But with the Thunrar, just for an example, this is a straight guillotine. Like, I want to go over the difference here again. Like, yes, it falls shut, but it's not like chop your hand off. I know I've already been over the Thunrar many times before, so we're going to go ahead and leave that alone for now, but this is nice. And this is nice to me in so many ways because it's so different. There's nothing out there in the market right now that quite looks like this. And the closest thing that you might be able to compare it to is a cold steel Espada. And for the people that don't really know what they're talking about with the design language, they might be like, oh yeah, that, you know, it's a copy of the cold steel Espada. No, the blade shape is a trailing point Persian style blade, but the blade profile does not look like a cold steel Espada. I mean, does the handle scale curve kind of similarly? Sure. But if that's all you got is similar, then we need to stop having that conversation, because cold steel has never produced this much titanium in their life. I like some cold steel knives, but let's not get it twisted. They don't use these materials. The backspacer, I'm a huge fan of. When you got a blade this big, like, I like backspacers on regularly sized knives, but when you got a blade this big, the backspacer is of absolute importance. You really don't want stuff getting in there and messing up your day. And that backspacer makes sure that that doesn't happen. I like that the hardware is all the same size Torx. I believe that that is Torx T10. The pocket clip is the same texture as the diamond texture up here as well. This is it's a beautiful knife. It's a beautiful accomplishment, because when you look at a knife like this, you know right away if it's for you or not. And again, it's not going to be for everybody, but they never have a problem with that. Midgards Messer never has a problem with that. They always sell out. And the people that are on the fence are always the ones that are let down and feeling disappointed, because by the time they choose to make a move, it's gone. And it's limited, so it's gone forever. Will they make another version of it afterwards? Maybe, maybe not. We don't know. That's kind of how it works with limited knives. But if they do come out with another version, something's going to change. And so I mentioned that because if you like this knife, go to Midgards Messer USA. I'll link them down below. And they were kind enough to hook me up with a 10% discount code. It's Rollshambo. Super easy since you're watching this channel, right? Pick up one of these knives on the pre-order. Don't wait, because I can tell you from experience, if you're on the fence and then you wait, by the time you decide to pull the trigger, it's already too late. Guys, this is a beautiful knife. Is it a heavy knife? Yeah. Is it a big knife? Oh yeah. Those who love big knives are going to love this knife. As far as the design language is concerned, some things that really stand out to me are the garage stopped pins. The fact that the jimping goes all the way up to the apex of the spine and then trails back down. This is a knife that you could 100% use. Obviously check your knife flaws, but you could, if you wanted to, 100% use this knife. Or you could stick it in a display case. Having that level of flexibility is not very common, because oftentimes the knives that you would stick in a display case are the ones that you wouldn't necessarily use. And this one can go both ways. I'm really enjoying the action. I love the fact that despite its size, I can reverse flick this, no issue. The sound that it makes, the acoustics sound really good. The ergonomics are not the most amazing thing ever. And a lot of that has to do with, actually, in my opinion, this pocket clip, because while I don't have an issue with this hump, the hump actually, it feels totally fine to me, and the handle scales are big enough to put whatever grip you want on here. For me, the pocket clip does stick out just a little bit. Could they have made it a little bit shorter? Sure. Is it a big deal? Absolutely not. Is it the most hand-meltingly good ergonomics ever? No, but it's also not something that I would shy away from. There's no serious hot spots. You do notice the pocket clip, but I mean, come on. There's more titanium in that pocket clip than Cold Steel has used on their entire lineup since the end of time. I'm really digging this knife. I'm really excited for it as well. It is in pre-order. And so, like I said, because they only do a limited run of these, they do come serialized. This one didn't, because this one is technically a prototype. But because of that, if you like it, don't wait on the fence. Go pick one up. My discount code is in the description. They're in pre-order right now, and you'll never have a better chance. And the good news is that if you do decide to sell it later, because it's a limited production run, these do actually gain value. I know of people who have bought Midgards Messer knives, sold them later, and they made more than what they spent on the knife. For me, this is a knife that I would absolutely carry. In fact, I did carry it for a day or two, and I didn't have any issues with it. It actually rides well in the pocket due to this nice curvature here on the handle scales. I'm a big fan of this action. I really like that they skeletonized the scales to bring the weight down, even if it's only marginally lighter than something like the Thunrar. The fact that it's lighter at all while still being a longer knife is impressive. The fit and finish on here is really good. I'm going to tell you that right now. It's really good. I very much enjoy the fact that this knife is different. It brings me joy, and that's what most of us look for in knives in this hobby. We look for knives that bring us joy. Do we want to use them so that we can say that it's more than just something that we hold in our pockets and, you know, fidget with when we should be doing other things? Sure. But aside from being useful, which it is, it's also something that will make you happy. And I think that that's a category that we don't talk about enough. But you let me know. Are you going to go out? Are you going to take advantage of the Berserker pre-order? Are you going to wait? Are you going to think about it? I'm interested in finding out. So let me know in the comments section down below. And if you want to see how this bad boy ranks, make sure you hit subscribe. In fact, if you waited this long, if you watched this far, you owe it to yourself, because we've got more content on this knife coming, and very soon we're going to have content on this knife coming. So if you think this one is too big, you might want to stick around and wait for the content on this one. Guys, if you liked the video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, boo-hoo, there's a button for you too. And if you want to see the ranking, which is going to be coming in the next week and a half, make sure you hit subscribe. I'm Rollshambo. I'll catch you on the flip side.